Ricky Hatton was one of Britain's most beloved boxing champions. He had world titles, sold-out arenas, and millions behind him. Yet the toughest fight of his life happened outside the ring.
To do it, I used to sit there with a knife every night at my wrist, you know, whether I'd had a drink or whether I'd not had a drink, thinking, what have I got to live for?
How did one of boxing's toughest fighters go from the top of the world to the tragic end that shocked millions? To answer that, we have to go back to the morning everything changed. The morning it all stopped. It was early. Around 6:30 in the morning on Sunday, the 14th of September 2025. Ricky's longtime manager and best friend, Paul Speak, pulled up outside a house on Bullacre Road in G Cross near Hyde. The plan was simple. Drive Ricky to Manchester Airport and fly out to Dubai for a press conference. There was a big fight to promote, but Ricky did not come to the door. Paul had a key, so he let himself in. And in the games room of the house, he found Ricky unresponsive. He called emergency services straight away, but it was too late. Ricky Hatton was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 46 years old. There was an empty wine bottle on the pool table and a half-full glass on the bar. The lights were dim, there was no note, and when police looked into it, they said there were no suspicious circumstances. One of the most loved sportsmen Britain has ever produced was simply gone, and here's what made it so hard to understand. Just 2 days earlier, he had seemed completely fine. On the Friday evening, Ricky had taken his daughters and his little granddaughter out for a meal at a pub. He was in good spirits. He was laughing. He told them he would see them in a couple of days, right after his quick trip to Dubai. He got home around 8 o'clock, messaged a friend a few minutes later, and that was the last anyone heard from him. His phone was last unlocked just after midnight. The next day, Saturday, he was meant to be at a boxing show to support one of the young fighters he trained. He never showed up. But at the time, nobody worried too much. That was just Ricky sometimes. Besides, he had something much bigger on his mind. In July 2025, after 13 long years away from real fighting, Ricky had shocked everyone by announcing a return to the ring. The bout was booked for the 2nd of December in Dubai. He had been posting training videos. He looked lean, he looked hungry, he talked about it with a spark in his eye. Paul was with him for most of that final Friday, driving him around as they got ready for Dubai. He later remembered just how sure Ricky was about the fight.
He said to me, I'm going to smash him and knock him out in 2 rounds, which was typical Ricky.
That trip on the 14th of September was the first step toward one more night under the lights. He never made the flight. Later, Paul Speak, the man who found him that Sunday morning, said he truly believed Ricky had never intended for this to happen. He insisted Ricky had everything to live for. When the news broke, the whole country stopped. At the Manchester Derby that afternoon, the two great rival football clubs stood together for a minute of silence. Tributes came flooding in from every corner of sport. His old rival Manny Pacquiao paid his respects. So did Tyson Fury, who called him a legend and said there would only ever be one Ricky Hatton. The boxer Amir Khan called him a friend, a mentor, a warrior. Wayne Rooney, Liam Gallagher, and the whole world of boxing lined up to say goodbye. His family released a short, broken statement. They said he was so much more than a world champion, and they were right. To the people of Manchester, he was one of them. He drank in their pubs. He watched football in their stands. He was the little lad from the council estate who went all the way to the top and never once acted like he was better than anyone. Weeks later, on the 10th of October, they held his funeral at Manchester Cathedral. Thousands of people lined the streets to watch the procession pass. Grown men cried on the pavement. It looked less like a funeral and more like a city saying goodbye to one of its own children. How does a man this loved, this famous, this seemingly happy end up alone in a games room with the lights turned down? What was going on underneath the smile that the rest of us never saw? To understand the fall, you first have to understand just how high he climbed. And to understand that, we have to go back to a rough council estate in Greater Manchester, where a bullied schoolboy first pulled on a pair of gloves. The kid who became a king. Ricky Hatton was not born into money. He grew up on the Hattersley estate near Hyde, a tough patch of Greater Manchester built for families moved out of the old city slums. It had a hard reputation. It sat near the homes of some of Britain's most infamous criminals, but Ricky always said the same thing about it. Some of the nicest people you could ever meet live on estates like that. He never moved away. He was proud of it until the day he died. His parents ran pubs. Young Ricky and his brother Matthew helped out stacking shelves and hauling crates of beer up from the cellars. That was his childhood, behind the bar watching real life go by. He did not start out as a fighter, though. He started out as a target. Ricky was bullied at school. His mom and dad told him to tell the teacher, but telling the teacher did not stop the beatings. So one of his mates gave him a better idea.
And then one of my mates turned around and said, listen, you know, the boxing club in Hyde, down there, he said, he boxes for the club there. He said, why don't you go down there? You might have a bit of a spar with him. So I went down, you know, we joined the boxing.
He was a natural at the local gym in Hyde, run by a coach called Ted Pete. A young Ricky got on the heavy bag and started knocking lumps out of it. Pete watched this small kid hit like a grown man and gave him the nickname that would follow him forever.
I had never boxed before, I'd kickboxed before, but I went on the bag and I'm hitting the bag and I'm knocking lumps out of this bag, nearly taking it off the inches as a little 11-year-old. And he come over and he just said, geez, you know, we've got a right little hitman here.
The hitman, it stuck. He tried working for his dad as a carpet fitter but he was, by his own honest word, terrible at it. Boxing was the only thing he was ever truly great at. He turned professional in 1997. His trainer, Billy Graham, said Ricky was the most talented youngster he had ever seen. And for the next 10 years, nobody in the world could beat him. He fought like a man possessed. He came forward all the time, throwing brutal punches to the body. He was not flashy. He was not a show-off. He just walked you down and broke you apart. Fans loved it. He started selling out the Manchester Arena over and over, turning fight night into a giant party. Then came the night that made him a legend. In June 2005, Ricky challenged Kostya Tszyu, one of the most feared fighters on the planet. Hardly anyone gave Ricky a chance, but in front of 22,000 screaming fans in his home city, at 2 in the morning he did the impossible. He beat Tszyu down round after round until the great champion quit on his stool.
And to do it against such a formidable champion in my hometown of Manchester, 22,000 fans in Manchester Arena at 2 o'clock in the morning, and made such a punching machine like Kostya Tszyu quit on his stool and say no more, leave me alone, in Manchester. That was brilliant.
He always said it was the greatest win of his career. It made him a world champion. It was named one of the finest British boxing nights ever, and it opened the door to America. He became a two-weight world champion. He was named Fighter of the Year in 2005 by nearly everyone who handed out the award. He got an MBE. His name went up in lights on the Las Vegas Strip, next to the heroes he had watched as a boy. But here's the thing that made Ricky Hatton different from every other champion. It was not the belts that people loved. It was him. When he fought Floyd Mayweather in Las Vegas in 2007, something happened that boxing had never seen before. An army of British fans followed him across the ocean. More than 30,000 of them descended on Vegas. They sang his songs in the casinos. They drank the city dry. The MGM Grand actually ran short of beer. It was pure carnival. Ricky knew exactly why they came. It was not because he lived like a perfect athlete. It was because he lived like them.
But would he have had the fan base that I had? I don't think I would have done, because I think people come and watch me because Ricky Hatton is one of the lads. He's an exciting fighter, body puncher, attacker. He don't care. He goes in the pub, he has a pint, he has a game of darts, he goes and watches City, he has a pint and a pint of the match.
That was the secret. Between fights, he would balloon in weight. He loved his beer and his fry-ups so much the fans jokingly called him Ricky Fatton, and he laughed right along with them. He was ranked among the most loved British boxers ever, right up there with the greats. He was the pub landlord's son who never left the pub. He was one of us. But that Vegas night against Mayweather, the biggest night of his life, was about to become the start of something dark, because Ricky Hatton had built his whole world on winning, and he was about to lose for the very first time. The long fall into the dark, Ricky walked into the ring against Floyd Mayweather completely certain he was going to win. That was his mindset. He did not go to Vegas to collect a big check. He went to beat the best fighter in the world. He started fast. He rocked Mayweather early, but then the sharper, faster man took over. There was a moment in the 6th round when the referee took a point off Ricky, and Ricky felt it broke his rhythm and made him lose his cool. Years later, looking back, he was clear about one thing. He respected Floyd's skill, but he never forgave the officiating.
Well, probably the first mistake was letting someone from Las Vegas referee Floyd Mayweather in Vegas, you know.
Exactly.
It's like Floyd coming to Manchester and a Mancunian refereeing me. I think the same thing would have happened, you know what I mean?
In the 10th round, Mayweather landed a clean left hook. Ricky went crashing headfirst into the corner post and down to the canvas. It was stopped soon after. His unbeaten record was gone, and for a man who had never known that feeling, it broke something inside. The problem was not the loss itself. It was the shame. 30,000 people had crossed the ocean for him, and he felt he had let every single one of them down.
And when I didn't, I felt like I let all the fans down that went over, the 30,000 fans went over to see me. I thought I'd really let them down, and it was very hard over the next forthcoming months for me to actually show my face. I was embarrassed to leave the house.
He could not walk down his own street without falling apart inside.
You walk down the street and you get the paranoia kicks in that you think, well, Ricky got beat, there's Ricky. I thought everybody was looking and laughing at me.
Then the losses started coming from outside the ring too. In 2008, Ricky split from Billy Graham, the trainer who had been like a father and a best friend to him for over a decade. It got ugly. Graham later took Ricky to court, saying he had been underpaid for the Mayweather fight and not paid at all for another. In court, Graham said something that cut deep. He said it was Ricky he trusted, and that he had always feared Ricky's dad would shortchange him. The case was later settled, but the friendship was in ruins. Then came the knockout that changed everything. In May 2009, Ricky fought Manny Pacquiao, who was tearing through everyone in his path. It was over almost before it began. Pacquiao dropped him twice in the first round. Then in the second round, one devastating left hook knocked Ricky out cold. He lay flat on the canvas for minutes and needed medical help. It was named the knockout of the year. For Ricky, it meant the end.
And then I got knocked out by Manny Pacquiao in 2 rounds, but ultimately meant I had to retire.
And then one by one, everything else in his life fell apart too. Not long after the Pacquiao fight, His relationship broke down, and on top of all of it, he had a bitter falling out with his own mom and dad over money. The rift was so deep it later led to a fight with his father in a car park, and years of complete silence between them. So now picture where he was. No boxing, no trainer, no partner, no mom and dad. The man who had everything suddenly felt like he had nothing at all. He described sitting alone, thinking it all through, hitting rock bottom.
And then it was like rock bottom. I was sat in my house, I was sat on the settee one day and I was thinking to myself, well, I haven't got boxing anymore, I haven't got a missus anymore, I haven't got mum and dad anymore, I haven't got Billy Graham anymore, and I haven't got boxing anymore. What am I doing here now? What am I doing here? What have I got to live for anymore?
He tried to fill the hole with drink, not a few pints. He described drinking up to 25 pints of Guinness in a single day before moving on to spirits, on binges that could last a day and a half. And then to keep the drinking going even longer, he turned to cocaine. Then it all became public. In September 2010, a newspaper printed secret footage of Ricky snorting a white powder in a hotel room. The woman who filmed it said she went public because she believed he was a danger to himself. The nation's cheeky champion was now front-page news for all the wrong reasons. He checked himself into rehab. The boxing board held a hearing and stripped him of his license, fining him £20,000. But the drink and the drugs were never really the main problem. They were what he reached for to escape something far worse. Behind the pints, Ricky was trying to end his own life.
You know, and that's when I tried killing myself, and I could never bring myself to do it. I used to sit there with a knife every night at my wrist, you know, whether I'd had a drink or whether I'd not had a drink, thinking, what have I got to live for? I could never have the bottle to go through with it. So what I thought to myself, I thought I'm going to drink myself to death.
Night after night for months, he sat alone in the dark with a knife. This was the real fight of his life, and it was one that no crowd would ever see. So the question now was simple and frightening. Could anything pull Ricky Hatton back from the edge? The comeback, the truth, and the legacy. For a long time, nothing worked. Then his baby daughter Millie was born, and Ricky thought that would be the thing to save him. It was not. He was still drowning. So he did the bravest thing he ever did. Braver, he always said, than anything in the ring. He went and asked for help.
I just threw myself on my knees and just said, you need to tell me what I'm going to do. I can't do it on my own. I need help. You need to tell me today what to do, otherwise I won't be here next week. I'm going to kill myself.
That moment on his knees in a psychiatrist's office in Manchester was the turning point. Bit by bit, week by week, he started to climb back out. He said getting it off his chest was the one thing that saved his life.
I'm a world boxing champion who won like 4 world titles, and I'm supposed to be a tough guy, aren't I? No, I couldn't do it myself, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what I did in the boxing ring or anything like that. I needed help, and never be scared to admit that you need help.
And then Ricky did something remarkable. He turned his worst days into his life's work. He became one of the first big male athletes in Britain to speak openly about depression and suicide at a time when hardly anyone did. He became an ambassador for the mental health charity Calm. He gave talks all over the country. He wanted anyone in that same dark place to know they were not alone.
I fell out with Billy Graham, if you remember at the time. He wasn't just my trainer, he was my best friend. And then I fell out with my mum and dad. So I thought to myself, I've got no best mate, I've got no mum and dad, I've got no boxing no more. What's my point being here on planet Earth?
He was honest about how bad it had been, but he was just as honest about how far he had come.
It took more courage than I think I ever showed in the boxing ring. Life has never been as good.
Slowly, the pieces of his life came back together. In 2019, he made up with his mum and dad after years apart. He built a new career as a trainer in his gym in Hyde. He stepped back through the ropes for one fun exhibition and heard that Manchester roar one more time. He watched his son Campbell turn professional. He got to be a grandfather. By 2025, he seemed to be in the best place he had been in years, which brings us right back to where we started. The comeback fight in Dubai, the happy family dinner, and that silent Sunday morning when Paul Speak let himself into the house. For months, the country asked the same painful question. Why? He was doing so well. He had plans. He seemed happy. The answer when it finally came was not simple at all. An inquest was held. It confirmed the medical cause of death was hanging. But then came the twist that changed the whole story. The senior coroner, Alison Much, recorded what is called a narrative verdict. She said she was satisfied that Ricky did the act that led to his death, but that she could not be satisfied that he actually intended to take his own life. Why the doubt? A few reasons. There was no note. He had a heavy amount of alcohol in his system, well over the drink drive limit, and his family had just seen him full of life and future plans, but there was one more finding, and it may be the most heartbreaking of all. When they examined his brain, they found signs of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, at the milder end. That is the brain damage caused by taking punch after punch year after year. The coroner noted it can affect how a person behaves, even if nobody could say for sure how much it played a part here. Think about that for a moment. The sport that lifted a bullied boy off a council estate and made him a national hero may also have quietly damaged the very brain that carried him there. The thing he loved most might have been hurting him all along. His family have always held on to the belief that he did not mean to leave them. His manager said the same. And the coroner's verdict, in its own careful way, left the door open to that hope. At his funeral, his old friend from Sky Sports, Adam Smith, tried to sum up a life that was equal parts glory and heartbreak.
Richard, Rick, Ricky. More like a Rocky story, which led to a roller coaster of fabulous nights, taking a down-to-earth lad from Hyde to Vegas and into the Boxing Hall of Fame. With those spine-tingling blue moon ring walks and rip-roaring action, Richard Hatton, MBE, was both a sporting icon and a working-class hero.
He spoke about the pain Ricky carried after his defeats and how it never should have defined him.
Rick felt he'd let you all down. And that breaks my heart, because he was an incredible fighter who won 45 times with 32 knockouts on some of the biggest stages.
And then he gave the line the whole city already knew was true.
There is and only ever will be one Ricky Hatton.
His mother Carol had a message read out too. She ended it with a wish that broke the room in two.
Hopefully our son has found eternal peace. That would be our final wish.
That is the tragic fate of Ricky Hatton. A bullied boy who found a gift and who gave a whole country some of its greatest sporting nights. A champion whose biggest fight was never against Mayweather or Pacquiao, but against the voice in his own head. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2024, and he saved lives by talking about his own darkness. And in the end, he was still fighting to come back, still smiling at dinner with his kids, still planning for tomorrow. Maybe that is the truest thing about him. Ricky Hatton spent his whole life refusing to stay down. If his story teaches us anything, it is the thing he begged everyone else to hear. When the dark comes, do not sit with it alone. Go and speak to someone, because good times and bad times, as Ricky himself always said, never last forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.